Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something pretty interesting. The global geothermal power equipment market. What's its status now, and where is it heading?
Exactly. We've got this detailed market report from 2025 to guide us.
And our goal is really to unpack the numbers, figure out the drivers, the hot spots for growth, and why this matters for the bigger energy picture.
Think of it like we're looking under the hood of geothermal energy production. We're examining the whole system, from the big plants down to the specific bits of kit.
Okay, let's dive in. The report puts the global market in 2025 at USD 280, 340 million. That sounds pretty significant.
It is. It shows geothermal isn't just emerging, it's already a major player in the renewable space. There's real infrastructure, real investment happening now. That figure reflects current capacity plus, upgrades and maintenance.
And it's not static, right? The forecast goes up to USD 441.29 million by 2033.
Yeah, with a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 5.90% over that period, 2025 to 2033.
So steady, solid growth. What's pushing that number up?
Well, there are a few key things working together. The biggest probably is the global push towards renewables, for climate change.
Sure, that makes sense.
And alongside that, just generally rising energy demand, especially in developing parts of the world.
Right.
Plus, and this is crucial, the technology itself is getting better, drilling deeper, more efficiently, and the power generation tech is improving too. Makes it more economically viable.
So it's the need for clean energy meeting better ways to actually get it. And I guess government support helps too.
Oh, absolutely. Governments are putting incentives in place, tax credits, supportive policies for renewables feeding into the grid, that kind of thing.
Creates a better investment environment.
It really speeds things up.
Okay, let's break it down by region for 2025. North America has the lead.
Yep, the biggest slice. Over 40%, which comes out to USD 145.80 million.
ISO dominant.
Well, North America, particularly the U.S., has been doing geothermal for a long time. They've got great natural resources, especially out west.
High temperature stuff.
Exactly, and they've built up the infrastructure and the know-how. Plus, those federal and state policies give it a consistent push.
Then there's Europe, also a big chunk, over 30%. USD 218.60 million in 2025. What's the story there?
Europe's really committed to renewables. Think about the EU Green Deal aiming for climate neutrality.
Right.
So many countries are actively promoting geothermal. Subsidies, research grants, sometimes feed-in tariffs that guarantee prices.
To get in tariffs. Okay.
And they're also really looking at geothermal for heating and cooling, especially in cities, district heating networks and such.
Interesting. Okay. Third is the Asia Pacific, APAC. About 23%, USD 681.60 million in 2025. But the growth forecast there is where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
It really is. The report projects an 8.6% CAGR for APAC from 2025 to 2033. That's the highest growth rate globally.
Wow, 8.6%. Why so fast?
It's largely down to soaring energy demand. Think about the pace of urbanization and industrial growth in places like China and India.
Huge energy needs.
Exactly. And geothermal offers something really valuable. Reliable baseload power. It runs 247, unlike, solar or wind sometimes.
Good point. So North America leads now, but APAC looks set to really surge ahead. What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa? Smaller shares currently.
Yeah, their current market size is smaller, but they represent a huge potential. South America, with the Andes, has significant resources being explored more now.
Along the volcanic belt?
Precisely. The Middle East is looking more at direct use, using the heat directly for industry, desalination.
Not just electricity.
Right. And Africa, especially the East African Rift Valley, has enormous potential. Technology improvements are making projects viable in more places, both for power and direct use, like in agriculture.
So potential is there, just earlier stages of development.
In many cases, yes.
Now, the report mentions something interesting. The fastest growing segment is dry steam plants. What are those, and why is that maybe a bit surprising?
Okay, so a dry steam plant is, well, the simplest kind. It uses steam directly from underground high-temperature steam to spin a turbine.
Just straight steam?
Pretty much. It relies on finding those specific high-quality steam reservoirs. The fact it's listed as fastest growing might seem odd with all the new tech talk.
Yeah, you hear more about other types.
But it probably means there's a renewed focus on tapping into these really good, proven resources where they exist. They're efficient, reliable. Sometimes the classic approach gets a boost.
Makes sense. Don't fix what isn't broken. Or, rather, tap the best wells first. Okay, let's look at some specific countries. U.S. market. USD 273.3 million in 2025, growing at 4.2% CGR.
Yep. Canada is USD 158.3 million, 5.2% CAGR. Mexico, 954.21 million, 4.9%.
That's a good way to put it. Mature markets like the U.S. often focus on upgrading existing plants, boosting efficiency, small expansions, driven by those ongoing incentives like the production tax credit or state RPS mandates.
Renewable portfolio standards, right? Exactly. Requiring a certain percentage of renewables.
In Europe, it's more varied. UK, France, Germany, all significant markets but different growth rates. UK at 5.8% CAGR, Germany 5.2%, France 4.2%. Why the differences?
It really comes down to national policies and the specific geology. Germany's Energiewende, their big energy transition plan, strongly supports renewables, including geothermal. That drives their market.
So policy really matters.
Hugely, but also the resource availability. A country might have great policies, but fewer easily accessible high-temperature sites, leading to maybe slower growth than its neighbor.
Got it. No, APAC again. China's big.
Yeah.
USD 856.67 million, 8.1% CAGR. Japan, South Korea, Australia also strong. But India, 10.5% CAGR predicted. That's the highest country rate mentioned.
Yeah, India's projected growth is remarkable. Their energy demand is just skyrocketing.
Needs power for development.
Absolutely. And they have untapped geothermal potential. The government's pushing hard for renewables to diversify away from fossil fuels, so geothermal is looking really attractive there.
It really highlights how local factors, geology, policy, demand, shape the geothermal story in each place.
It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all energy source. Very location-dependent.
Okay, the report also slices the market by plant type. We did dry steam. What about flash steam and binary cycle?
Right. Flash steam plants use high-pressure hot water. When you bring it up, the pressure drops and some of it flashes into steam to drive the turbine.
Okay, uses hot water instead of just steam.
Yes. And then there's binary cycle. These are really important. They don't use the geothermal fluid directly in the turbine.
How do they work then?
They use the geothermal hot water or steam to heat a secondary fluid, one with a lower boiling point, through a heat exchanger. That secondary fluid vaporizes and spins the turbine.
Ah, so it's indirect. Why is that a big deal?
Because it works with much lower water temperatures. It dramatically increases the number of places where you can generate geothermal power. Resources that weren't hot enough for dry or flash steam suddenly become viable.
That really expands the potential map for geothermal. The report mentions projects using this in Germany, Turkey, Japan.
Exactly. Those are great examples of binary cycle tech making geothermal feasible where it might not have been before.
Okay, shifting gears to product type. Transformers has the largest share, makes sense for moving electricity around.
Yeah, you need them to step up voltage for transmission, step it down for use. Pretty fundamental.
But generators are noted as rapidly expanding, linked to project growth in the U.S., Indonesia, Philippines, Kenya, and a positive outlook from IRENA.
That's a direct signal of more power plants being built or expanded. More generation capacity needs more generators. Simple as that. IRENA's positive forecast just backs up that expectation of continued build-out.
The report also notes segmentation by type full flow versus dual cycle systems, which sounds related to the plant types, and by end-user utility, industrial, and residential commercial buildings.
Yeah, it underscores that geothermal isn't just for grid-scale power. Direct use is a big part of the picture, too. Using the heat for industrial processes, heating buildings, greenhouses, fish farming.
Right, reducing fossil fuel use in those sectors directly.
Exactly.
We've talked drivers. What about the brakes? The report flags high initial costs and geological risks as key restraints.
They're definitely the main hurdles. Exploration, drilling wells, building the plant, it takes a lot of capital up front.
And you don't know for sure what's down there until you drill.
That's the geological risk. You can do surveys, but drilling is the only way to confirm the resource. It's expensive and doesn't always pan out as expected.
But the trends suggest we're finding ways around these.
We are. Government incentives, as we said, help with the upfront costs, and technology is chipping away at the risk. Things like enhanced geothermal systems, or EGS.
EGS.
Yeah, basically engineering artificial reservoirs where natural ones don't exist or aren't good enough. Plus, better drilling tech and resource assessment methods are helping reduce uncertainty.
So innovation is key. The report talks about a competitive landscape, R&D investment, companies aligning with decarbonization goals. It even mentions specific collaborations.
Like Iberdrola and Mitsubishi Power working on clean energy solutions.
Yeah, and Baker Hughes investing in green fire energy for advanced geothermal systems using old wells.
Right. These partnerships are really significant. They show major energy players getting serious about geothermal, pooling resources, pushing the technology forward. That green fire idea repurposing non-producing oil and gas wells for geothermal is fascinating. Could really cut costs.
That's clever.
Uh,
Okay, finally, the regional insights seem to tie a lot of this together. North America leveraging incentives and its established base.
and valuing geothermal for its stability, unlike variable renewables. The report notes something like 92 billion kilowatt hours generated globally in 2022 from 24 countries, plus lots of direct use.
Europe pushing hard with policies like the Green Deal and feed-in tariffs.
Yep, strong government backing.
APAC, driven by that huge demand from urbanization and industry and energy security concerns. India standing out as the third largest electricity producer and consumer.
Big drivers there, absolutely.
South America seeing activity from companies like Enel Green Power, Ormat, with funding help from development banks.
Tapping into that Andean potential.
Middle East exploring more direct use applications for industry and agriculture.
Leveraging heat where power generation might be less common.
And Africa seeing growing demand from development, using it for power and direct use in places like Kenya and Ethiopia, with tech making it viable in more spots.
The potential in the Rift Valley is immense.
So wrapping this all up, our deep dive into this 2025 report paints a picture of a geothermal equipment market that's, well, really heating up, strong growth ahead.
Definitely. Driven by that essential need for renewable energy and by technology making it more accessible and efficient.
North America leads for now, but watch APAC. That's where the fastest growth is expected. And technologies like binary cycle are real game changers.
And the growing demand for generators signals more actual power coming online. It's becoming a really core part of the energy transition, offering stable, clean power and heat.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listeners. We've talked about the projected growth, the focus on energy independence, but think beyond the obvious. What other, maybe unexpected sectors could feel the impact as geothermal energy expands over the next decade? Could it reshape parts of agriculture, manufacturing, maybe even water management in surprising ways? Something to mull over.
A great question to end on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.